In today's video, we're going to be looking at a spinning reel to be rebuilt. You do that about once a season. It'll be a complete overhaul. In this one, we'll be looking at a Lew's Laser Speed Spin. It's a type of spinning reel. There's all different types of spinning reels out there. It's pretty standard. They're all going to be roughly the same. So let's get right into it. First off, you're going to want to look at your drag knob and turn it counterclockwise until it becomes loose so you can get that spool off. Once loose, it'll just slip right out like that. Set that one down to the side for you, and slipping the spool off vertically, you'll be able to get up underneath it. Looking for any grime or dirt. What you may want to remove when you're in here, you can always have Q-tips on hand. Will be a big benefit when up in here, so you can get all that grime out without damaging anything by putting anything too big or hard in there. As you clean it, you're going to need a few Q-tips, as they fill up pretty quick. And then I like putting down a clean paper towel on this side with all the parts I take off, so when I re-oil them, they'll be in order. After that spool's off, the shaft is exposed, and looking down there, you got some grime up on that front plate, which you can always wipe off. And then this plate won't be re-oiled, so you won't have to worry about wiping too hard, as it's going to be just a clean, smooth surface. Same with the shaft the spool is sitting on, you can clean that up a little bit. After that, you can look at your bail. Majority of the times, your bail is going to be a little bit dirty on the outside, but nothing too bad up on these joints. So they don't need to be oiled or greased unless there's a little bit of resistance going on. But when you're in here, you can always run a little bit of a Q-tip to get most of this grime out from the little joints from making it in there and causing further issues. After that, without losing your little gear and your drag disc, you rotate the reel to the back side. And on this reel, it builds up a lot right here in the handle. We're going to want to remove. Before you crack open the side over here, we're going to need some bolts being removed. After removing most of the excess dirt, you're able to remove this knob, which is going to be holding on your reel handle, and that'll be counterclockwise. It's just going to be hand tight, and then once you get that off, it'll just pull through the reel housing itself. This is where most of your grease sits, so I do advise, if you're working on a table or something, throw a little bit of a paper towel underneath to keep things clean. After that, you got that off to the side. On this wheel, you got 3 bolts right here, what you're going to be needing to remove, and that's going to be a small Phillips screwdriver. After off, you'll just slowly wiggle that plate. It'll come off for you. These screws are a little bit sticky. So once working with it, you'll be able to get it off. You're going to have to align that spinning part of the bale, so that little plastic housing will be able to get its way up and out. So you got a bearing in there, and this is going to be a whole assembly almost as you wiggle it out. Everything is a little bit finicky in here, as everything's so tight. And as you walk that one out, that's going to be a false gear assembly with a bearing on the edge. And this will expose you to all the gears that's going to be spinning that bale and giving you that ratio. This wheel overall is pretty clean. There's no excess buildup of grime or dirt inside this housing. But it was always good to rotate it a few times to give it a little bit of a once over. There's a little bit of black buildup on those splines on this copper gear, what we'll be removing here shortly. But this gear is looking very well. Let's get some light on that for you. This gear right here is looking very well. It's all greased. And then there's no grime on those teeth on this little gear right up here. When removing that grease here, you want to be really gentle, because more grease you remove, more you have to replace. As long as the grease isn't dirty, you're able to just add new and continue on. And then with this wheel only experiencing fresh water, you don't have to worry about corrosion and whatnot, where salt water will cause. Looking through those splines and getting that dirt out of the lower crevices. Make this wheel perform better this season with no issues whatsoever. After you got that, you're going to be looking for whichever type of grease you guys got. I just got some standard fishing grease here. And it goes a long way. You're just going to want a little dollop of it. And then that reapply to that spline gear. After applying, you want to walk it into the splines, getting all the way to the bottom of it, and then slowly spinning the wheel so everything can get lubed up with that. And if you see any spots where we're missing some grease, just go in for a little bit more out of your container and apply lightly until it's fully greased all around. After that, with this one being overall pretty clean in the housing, you're done with this, and you'll set this one down to the side. Come over to this gear assembly pulled off earlier. Looking at the assembly, there's no worn down teeth on that gear, nor any splines on that shaft up here is worn down. The bearing's still spinning freely, and then that seal right up here has no damage whatsoever. This is going to be helping keeping out all the water and grime from that wheel casing. After that complete inspection, this gear will be going around those two gears down here. This one right up here and this one back here. This one has a little bit of grease left over here and here, and you'd be all okay to reassemble without having to grease this one, with that one having excess grease. Before installing, flip the wheel back over on this side, and with your finger on the underside, feel the bearing, see if anything's seized or is getting some resistance. And this one's turned out to be quite well. And just run that inner and outer ring to get that grease out so the new can be applied. After that, you will walk the step you will walk the steps backwards to assemble it. Starting with this gear first. It'll click into place almost, and then spin it a few times to make sure everything's functioning as it should. During that, you have a little slider right here. It's gonna right in there. That slider is gonna move to help keep those gears in line. That slider you're gonna want to re-grease right in there to prevent any corrosion or resistance in the near future. After that, dry run it a few times to get that grease moving up and throughout the gears and the reel itself. I notice that gear right down there in the back. If I zoom in for you guys, right down there is clean, but it's a little lacking a little bit of grease. You can kind of feel a little bit of grinding as you're going across. So we're going to reapply some grease right down that corner. Using the screwdriver earlier, you can use it almost as a pick to get it down in there if you don't have a small enough grease stick. Once clean, you want to dry run it a few times. Once again, to make sure all that grease is going where you planned on it to. Once you got that main gear back into that gear housing, you're going to re-grab that cover plate of yours with the 3 screws in it. Without losing those screws, you're going to flip it over and make sure there's no dirt or whatnot in the crevices. By running a Q-tip, it's easiest with that black background. And that one came out pretty clean. No issues whatsoever. After that, we align the spool with the housing, just like that. Putting that side panel right back on. It's going to click into place a little bit once in. Just got to work with it a little bit. After working with it, you want to start one screw at a time and evenly bring it down, preventing any uneven tightening of that cover on you. There you go. With that little bit of a click, you see that there's no more gap where the two parts meet. With your thumb, you can hold it down in place and you're able to screw it in. When screwing these little bolts in, there's no resistance trying to make them come out, so don't over tighten them. Just finger tight. You don't have to really get too aggressive with it. Once the plate has touched the housing and your screws are all getting snugged up, you continue to do that star pattern to make sure everything seals correctly so you don't get no water or grime into that. Once after tightened down, you're able to put that handle back on. With the handle right here, you got all the screw threads. This one's going to be a little bit dirty, so you want to run those threads with a Q-tip. A little bit of grime come off that, and then re-grease this before inserting it back in the handle of that reel. Just a little bit, and when you slip it in, and another one will follow. You screw it down going clockwise. Once tight, with your two fingers, tighten it all the way down. Spin it once or twice, make sure everything's functioning as it did before. And now you can move on to your spool. With a spool, what we put off on a clean paper towel, you got your drag knob and your spool itself. You're going to want to take just a little bit of grease and apply it onto this shaft, what allows that spool to be spun around and activate those drag discs right there below. Above that gear, those little red discs. This one's going to have a little slit up in the top of the spool. What's going to be rectangle, and that shaft will be rectangle also. Lining those up, it'll slip right back into place for you. Taking the drag knob, once again, rectangle to rectangle. Lining that up and going clockwise to tighten it. With this being a drag knob, once you feel a little bit of resistance, you can stop and adjust it to whatever drag you're looking for, depending on what line you're going to be running on this. After that, that'll conclude on how to clean everything from the drag knob all the way down to the gear case inside a spinning reel. For example, this was on a loose speed spin, but majority of spinning reels will be looking the same and will come apart close to the same. So this is pretty universal for any spinning reels you may tackle in the future. Thanks for watching, and that is it.